Hello, everyone. Guillaume Le Tual here, host of the E-commerce Wizards podcast, where I feature leaders in business and e-commerce. Today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I have Dr. Jeremy Weiss, who's done thousands of interviews. We're going to flip the table, and he's going to interview me. Before we get started, we have our sponsorship message. This episode is brought to you by MageMontreal. If a business wants a powerful e-commerce online store that will increase their sales, or to move piled-up dormant inventory to free up cash reserves, or to automate business processes to gain efficiency and reduce human processing errors, our company, MageMontreal, can do that. We've been helping e-commerce stores for over a decade. Here's a catch. We're specialized and only work on the Adobe Magento e-commerce platform. We do everything Magento. If you know someone who needs design, development, maintenance, training, support, we got their back. Email our support team, support@magemontreal.com, or go to magemontreal.com. That's M-A-G-E Montreal.com. All right, Jeremy. So thanks for
You
being
guys
here
are
today.
experts. I love it. I love learning from you and talking e-commerce and websites. So check out MageMontreal. That's where we are. We're going to do a year in review episodes. We're going to talk about the top lessons, some of the top guests you've had on. So this is going to be an exciting episode. And if you are watching the video part, you can check out all the podcasts and go to magemontreal.com/podcast. All right. And the first one we're going to start off with, Guillaume, is how to scale your e-commerce business with Sean Jahal of Elevation Leaders. You did two actually parts of this. It was so good. And for people who don't know Sean, he works with companies, generating anywhere from 5 million to 200 million in revenue. Co-founder of DLALS Lighting and manufacturer of LED lighting solutions, and has a coaching practice. So a lot of cool stuff on this episode. He gives his top recommendations for finance, the 7 levers of and how small changes can make big differences, the cash conversion cycle, and why does it matter, and much more.
Yeah, exactly. So Sean's really a fun person to talk with. Like, he's himself a very successful entrepreneur, built an 8-figure business, and now he's just a coach, business coach. He's still the shareholder, but he's completely out of it. Now he's coaching people at his own business. So it's really 2 episodes really worth listening to. And his coaching style now is he's affiliated with the Scaling Up system from Vern Harnish, formerly known as the Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. And he'll talk about the 4 pillars on how to scale up the company. So here, it's a more traditional business approach to scaling up your e-commerce business by making sure you have your business fundamentals in place in a solid way that will support the growth, because you don't have that much of a difference that it's online or it's offline. It's just the way you sell, just a sales channel. The same business fundamentals applies to both. So those 2 episodes are really good to have strong foundation for your scale up your e-commerce business.
The next one we're going to talk about is ways to differentiate your e-commerce business with Robert Murray of Intrigue. And, again, you've really experienced entrepreneurs on here. Intrigue, he started his business over 15 years ago with a mission of empowering homeowner and professional service companies. A couple of things with this one that stuck out is the importance of identifying your core customer, strategy versus planning, and why the difference matters, reassessing your business e-commerce strategy post-pandemic. And, talk about the importance of identifying your core customer and why that's important, because you probably have to do this with websites.
Yes, well, Robert Murray clearly spent some time doing some soul searching, because how do you differentiate yourself? They're a marketing agency there. There's so many of those out there. So I think he had great success at applying that business knowledge of how do you stand out, how do you live your values, and communicate those with your employees and with your customers, and then truly live them. So it's not something that's just written on the wall. I'm not saying it's perfect. I haven't been in their company, but it's clear that he's spent a lot of work and effort on this to align his business and to also have a clear identity for the company on how you position yourself differently in the market to have a competitive advantage for your company. So again, a very interesting entrepreneur to listen to.
The next one, Guillaume, is how to scale your business through systemization with Yoni Kuzminski of Escala. He runs both Escala and Multiply Me. Again, they do a lot of different things in the e-commerce world. With this one specifically, he talks about the best ways to successfully scale an e-commerce business, taking inventory of your venture from the top down, how to simplify and organize your processes, getting your company on the same page through systemization. You probably have a lot of moving pieces when you're dealing with these web projects. What are your thoughts on processes?
Yeah, exactly. If you want to be scalable, you need to be able to hire new people, and these people need to have all the training material they need to learn without relying too much on hands-on personal training from the other employee that has all the knowledge in his mind. So, but he's really good here. He has two companies. One is really doing a business analysis, and then he will structure all the business process, the current process, and then the future state desired process. And one thing that was very interesting was the standard operating procedure, how he structures it. It's such a clear way for how everything is labeled and structured in a logical way that his test to see if they've done a good job or not is you get a new hire and you ask them to find a specific procedure. They should be able to find it themselves in the list of procedure without help. So if that test fails, there's a filing convention problem here. I think the system that he's putting for how to structure that sounds really good to me. Basically, I want to put it in place in my own company.
Yeah, love it. The next one, Guillaume, that we talked about here is Derek. And what does the future of e-commerce look like with Derek Haney of ecommercetech.io? Again, chief e-commerce technologist for the company. And he saw a disconnect between e-commerce teams and the tools they were using. So he went out to kind of solve this issue. And so some of the things you talked about is utilizing AI to improve and personalize your e-commerce systems, why delivery will be one of the greatest hurdles for small e-commerce brands. And he talks about increasing the lifetime value of customers, which obviously everyone wants, and the growing competition between Shopify and Amazon, and things about manufacturing and how it will evolve, especially in this post-pandemic world. So talk a little bit about e-commerce and the changes in general.
Yeah, so I've done 2 episodes with Derek. One is a Magento versus Shopify episode for like an hour and a half long battle. If ever you're debating which of the 2 platforms is the right fit for your company, I think you have all the answers you want in an hour and a half episode, the second one. Now, for this episode, when we're talking about the future of AI and stuff like that and so on, one thing that's interesting is also the positioning of Shopify, that they don't see themselves as competitors of other platforms like Magento, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, and WooCommerce from WordPress and so on. And they see their competition as Amazon. So there's probably some kind of huge Shopify marketplace in the plan that's not publicly revealed yet, that's coming. And they could totally pull it off from a technical point of view because they host all the e-commerce stores for all the Shopify stores. They can probably pull all that data in a massive marketplace. So there's a bit the writings on the wall on what is likely the next big business move from Shopify. But other than that, it's a lot of interesting info. Yes, what's coming up in AI, what's available in there from image recognition, for example, in Magento, you now have what's visually similar. So when you browse recommended products, you don't need, as a business owner, to go tag, or somebody on your team to spend time to tag each of the products that are similar, because yes, some of it you will have to, if it's a technical part that fits with part number 77111, whatever. Yes, that you still have to do by hand. But for the product recommendation from a visual point of view, it can show you either shirts, t-shirts, or dresses, whatever, that are visually similar, tiles, stuff like that. So you can start to shop for variants of what you're currently shopping for. So it's very interesting. And AI can also do automatic conversion rate optimization tests for you in the product that it suggests. If the product suggested don't sell, it will suggest something else. Mm-hmm. And it's unthinkable to do this manually, let's say with a 40,000 product catalog, but you can totally automate this through AI. A lot of interesting things here.
That's great. And I got to check out the other part with Shopify versus Magento too. The next one is how to successfully implement an e-commerce platform with Casper of Illumio. And again, with Casper, a few things that stuck out was you talked about the importance of having a high-level understanding of your platform solutions. You talked about preventing scope creep during an integration project, because it's really common. The positive and negatives of agile frameworks. Again, like a lot of companies who are, using Scrum and Agile frameworks, it's really interesting to learn how they use it and apply it. Why you should keep detailed documentation of your systems. Again, we see a repeating pattern of systems here, and the balance between efficiency and budgeting during integration. So, what sticks out on these topics?
Yeah, so Casper initially built an agency with like almost 60 people in it, building e-commerce websites. Great respect for his success there, and eventually he sold that out and started Illumio, that is a platform that connects e-commerce sites with various other technology out there, ERP system, enterprise resource planning system, and so on. Um, so this episode actually can literally save tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the scale of your company, in in quality of project execution and succeeding in your web development project, in your IT project, software integration systems, and all that. Because it's actually we went deep down in the trenches of, you know, two business owners who build those kind of systems for so many clients. You know, what worked, what didn't work, what are the pitfalls to avoid. So there's a lot here. Like if somebody goes through this episode, project managers would love it, business owners, IT directors, even marketing directors, because they are often put in charge of some of the e-commerce projects and so on. Like there's a lot of extremely valuable knowledge in this too, of major pitfalls that other has fallen into, that if you know about it, perhaps you can save yourself the trouble.
Love it. Check it out. The next one is how to scale your e-commerce business with Vinnie Fisher of Fully Accountable. I actually happen to know Vinnie personally. Great guy. He's got an accounting firm that offers outsourced accounting and finance solutions to e-commerce and digital businesses. And a couple of things you discussed on Vinnie. He's always a wealth of information. How he grew his company's profit margin. When we talk about gross, people talk about gross margin. He talks about profit margin, right? From 8% to over 20%, tips for improving your variables and benchmarks. What are the milestones of growth in an 8-figure business that you should be looking at, and overcoming challenges of expanding your company? So if you're looking to expand, check it out. And also the key to breaking through the scaling ceiling for e-commerce brands. So, get a lot of talk about profit or growth.
Yeah, exactly. So Vinny says he built his company to almost 9-figure, the previous one. And in the discussion, it's a profit versus growth. Well, if you're not backed by venture capitalists, do focus on profit. Otherwise, sure, you can play the growth game. That's the only metric that matters: how much you've grown, how fast you're taking the market, and so on. But private companies focus on profit, be profitable every year, and grow at a slightly more reasonable pace. So it's safer and financially healthier, and you'll feel better in general. And then what the milestones that we're talking about is, let's say, okay, typically, what do you think companies should focus on? Or from your own personal experience, Vinny, what did you focus on when you were, let's say, going from $0 to $1 million? Okay, then let's say, I don't remember the exact milestone we've used, perhaps was 1 million to 5, and then 5 to 10, or whatever it was, 10 and onward. But we did break some milestones like this from his own personal experience, what he had to focus at each of those steps to grow to the next milestone.
The next one, Guillaume, is how to elevate customer service for e-commerce brands with Michael Potters of Gorgias. And Gorgias empowers over 7,000 businesses with better customer service on platforms like Shopify and Magento. I'm sure this conversation, it was fantastic with Michael. You discussed challenges of generating customers for a subscription model versus single purchase. You talked about crafting a multi-channel strategy to acquire customers, even securing funding, and also best ways to improve the customer experience as an e-commerce brand. Because as you know, if you can improve that experience, you make more sales and you have loyal customers too. So talked about some SMS marketing, customer feedback, limiting your SKUs, and much more.
Yeah, so Michael, he's an entrepreneur, created his own company selling coffee online, the subscription model for high-end subscriptions and so on. And then he was using Gorgias for his own customer service, which is used for ticketing and chat, and to integrate all this. So it's connected actually to an actual order, an actual customer in your backend. It's not just like, hey, a little chat pop up there that's not connected to anything. So that was interesting. And then eventually he sold his business and started working for Gorgias. And now that's where he's at. And we're building very interesting partnership with Gorgias. We're recommending it to many of our customers. So it's a very good product in general. And so he's talking about mainly his personal venture there and a little bit about Gorgias.
Great. The next one, Guillaume, is how to measure and maximize your data with Chris Mercer of marketing.io. It's always good to measure your marketing, right? You can attribute to what dollars you're spending to the sales. And so you can grow, actually, because if you don't know, then it's really hard and you're just throwing stuff at the wall. So this one, you talked about 3 key steps for measuring your marketing, frequent mistakes you should avoid in marketing, how to read and use your data properly, forecasting, which is important, and the small adjustments that can make huge improvements in your marketing, everything marketing.
Yeah. So what's interesting about Mercer's, he preferred to be called Mercer rather than Crest, so whatever. So Mercer is that he has a framework, which can be interesting sometimes to organize your thought and to see sort of where you're at for each element of your marketing in your business. And then like, what's the next suggested logical step when you follow the framework. So just that is worth looking at, to know properly where to get to. And there's so much you can do usually, especially the smaller brands, they tend to have a very immature marketing and they could do so much more. But that gives you like, okay, what's the next step that would be a good idea to work on and why and so on. And it was a good episode. I learned a few things myself about measurement and marketing in this one.
Teaching the teacher. Love it. The next one, Guillaume, is generating traffic to your e-commerce business with Stephen Pope, a My Amazon guy. So again, they're a full service Amazon agency. They help a lot of clients. So he shed a lot of light probably on SEO, SEM, social media, and different things as far as growing an Amazon, in e-commerce business. So you talk about diverting Amazon traffic to your e-commerce website. How does packaging impact the customer experience? The number one improvement you can make for your website ranking. And he shares some of the phases of SEO, how to leverage them for your website, and much more.
Yeah. So just before that interview with Stephen Pope, we had lost a bid for an e-commerce project, and the customer said, no, it was not a price, whatever. It's the other agency also offered like full service to take care of our Amazon channel. So well, done that with the partner or whatever. But I was considering at that time, should I offer like full service Amazon services to our customer as well, in addition to their e-commerce build and full service for the e-commerce itself. And then after my meeting with Stephen Pope, I said, no way, that's a very specialized,
totally different business.
Different business. I'm going to leave that to specialists like him. So the guy is pretty awesome. If you want to know about Amazon in general, like he's a wealth of information.
Yeah, I know we have a couple other episodes to get through just to give people an overview. How to successfully exit your business with Joe Valley of Qualilight. So check that episode out. They basically help sell businesses. Some of the things on that is, should entrepreneurs start planning for an exit? Advice on e-commerce store owners looking to sell a business. What's something that, briefly it stuck out with Joe?
Well, mostly that, he's an expert at the merger and acquisition and selling businesses. And this way he's telling you like, okay, plan in advance. And not only you will increase the valuation of your business, but you'll also build a better business. You have similar concepts with other books, such as Built to Sell, that if you put everything in practice that is in the book, you'll actually end up loving your business so much that you probably won't sell in the end. So very interesting concept that are presented there.
The next one is how to use data to grow your business with AJ Yeager of Practice Metrics. Again, another data-rich episode here talking about the 5 desert island metrics that e-commerce brands should track. What's the key to run a successful remote company, and how AJ tracks the happiness of his remote employees and clients, as well as common mistakes to avoid when tracking data.
Yeah, for sure. So his 5 desert island metrics that e-commerce brands should track, I agree with that. So if you're not currently tracking them, it's a good idea to start. And you'll typically see improvement. What get measured gets done and gets improved. So this is an interesting one about conversion rate optimization, improving just sales in general through a better tracking of your marketing success and conversion on the website.
For the last one, Guillaume, web hosting and Magento migrations with Sonal of WebScale. And talk a little bit briefly about this one. She, again, pushing WebScale to be faster and cheaper, challenges WebScale faced in conquering during the holiday season, the COVID impact, structure behind WebScale's lightning fast service level agreement, and some of the day-to-day responsibilities, and even how is WebScale different from a typical hosting company?
Oh, this one's more of a, let's say, CEO interview, which is always interesting to see, like, what's the business vision, what do they value, and so on, and what can I learn from another CEO, perhaps that I could perhaps implement in my own company. And you may notice a similar theme throughout many of those episodes is that it's not always about the technology or the technical side of things. That a lot of e-commerce growth is stunted from actually lack of proper classic business foundation, or the owner being overwhelmed, doesn't have enough time to delegate. He's in too many seats. He's the chief financial officer, CEO, COO, and CMO, and IT guy, and everything. And he needs to remove himself from a lot of those seats so the company can grow. WebScale was pretty much on a very big scaling up through raising money, and they've purchased some other. I don't know the detail of the deals, but WebScale announced last year that they purchased MageMontreal or became a shareholder. I'm not too sure what's the detail, but now WebScale is partnered there with MageMontreal, which we really like for hosting. Yeah.
Last one, Guillaume, Magento 1 to Magento 2 with Robert. We can't forget Robert, right? Robert's awesome. You were on their podcast as well, JetRails. Talk a little about Robert and JetRails.
Yeah, sure. So, JetRails is one of our top partners there for hosting Magento, because they have true in-house experts. They're certified experts and real Magento knowledge. It's not just a landing page to get hosting client in Magento. So, a great company for hosting there. Now, this episode is really about Magento 1 to Magento 2. So, it's a very specific episode. The end of life of Magento 1.
If you want to geek out on Magento, all things Magento,
exactly.
This is an episode.
Exactly, because Magento 1 reached its end of life, but there are some independent third party that started still publishing security updates to sort of stretch things out a little bit. But someone who's still in Magento 1 probably wants to, if it's not already in progress, wants to migrate to Magento 2, because all the underlying technology, PHP and so on, is also end of life. So it's time to move on from, VHS to DVD.
I just want to thank you. This is a year in review in about 20 minutes. Check out all these episodes. Check out MageMontreal.com. Check out MageMontreal.com/podcast and e-commerce wizards podcast. And as always, Guillaume, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing this episode with me, Jeremy. I wish we could go over each of the podcasts, but maybe we'll need a part 2 for this.
Yeah.